This is Jocko Podcast number 52 with Echo Charles and me, Jocko Willink. Good evening, Echo.
Good evening.
So, today is the 52nd episode of the Jocko Podcast, which means that it's been 1 year since we put out one every week. And people have been asking me, hey, you going to do anything special for the 1 year anniversary? A special guest or a special book is, what are you going to do special on this day? Mm-hmm. And my answer is yes. We are going to do something special because today is special. But today isn't special because it's the 52nd podcast. See, just like I don't go overboard with special holidays, like birthdays or Christmas or Valentine's Day or Veterans Day or even Memorial Day. Today isn't special because it's the 52nd podcast. Today is special because it's today. Today is special because we are alive. Because we're breathing. And when you're here and you're alive and you recognize that you're alive today, that makes every day special, makes every day a miracle, makes every day a gift. And that might seem like a trite platitude, but it isn't. And if you've seen brave young men who give their lives on the battlefield for their brothers, or you've seen stoic young children facing some kind of terminal disease, or you would have had death attack your life with its multitude of heartless weapons, cancer and disease and suicide and accidents and addiction and murder and war. And if you've seen those things, then you know it isn't a platitude and it isn't cliche. You know it's true. Every day is a special day. Every day is a gift. Every day is awesome. And so what are we going to do special for this podcast right here? The same thing that we always do. We're going to give it everything we've got. We're going to leave it all on the mat. We prepared, we invested, we studied, we thought, and we're going to get after it. Why? Not because this is number 52, not because it's been 1 year, not because we made it this far, but because this is the one. It's the one life we have. This is the one shot we get at today, this day, now. And so we are going to get after it like we always do, and we're going to make it count. So, Echo, let's do this. Now, I did go a little bit long with the last podcast. We were introducing the Korean War, the coldest war, on that last episode. So I went a little crazy on that one. Amen. We all need to hear about that. We're going to hear some more. But today, we're going straight to Q&A from the interwebs. So, Echo Charles, what do you got? Question number 1. Go.
All right. Okay, first question. Jocko, how did you have time to train in martial arts while deployed? I figure that you were too busy with combat to even think about training while deployed. Thank you for any information.
Okay, so A couple things. I always brought mats with me when we deployed. And it was really good, because once I was in a leadership position, I could kind of make that happen pretty easily.
Wait, how does that happen? Do you just say, hey, bring some mats? Do you tell somebody?
I had mats. No, I had mats, and I actually got mats from the team. And then we would just put them on a big pallet. When you deploy, you go on, you put all your gear on these big pallets. So some of those pallets would have mats on them.
Mats on them. Okay,
and then when we would go on deployment, now pre-war, it was, we'd go on deployment. We'd just bring mats and train wherever we could train. And then once the war started, and I still brought mats. I was like, hey, war? It's not like they're going to have us working 24 hours a day. So, and if they did, we just wouldn't be able to train, but I was prepared for training. And what I did, both my deployments to Iraq, is I had what's called a GP medium tent, which is basically a really, really big tent. And they have air conditioning and they have dual walls, so it stays kind of cool. And I just made that into a little mini fight room, put mats out. And then I would just train when there was downtime. And there is downtime when you're on deployment. I mean, there is definitely downtime when you're on deployment. And like, what are you going to do with your downtime is the question. Now, some guys with their downtime, they decide to do something that's maybe not super productive. And I'll give you an example of that. There was some guys on my first deployment to Iraq, and they played Halo. It's a video game. Have you heard of it?
Yes.
Okay. It's a first-person shooter video game.
Yeah.
And so my guys were they just played anytime we weren't working, which, our missions at that point, we were doing little direct action missions. They'd only take a few hours, even, the planning and, every 2 or 3 days. So you had time, right? And so all the time, and they had wires set up so they could play different each other in different tents. Yeah, it was really ridiculous. And meanwhile, the guys that were a little bit more hardcore, we were training in the Jiu Jitsu, but these guys, and actually these guys were good mugs too. But what's funny is, so I kind of thought, like, what is wrong with these guys? Why are they doing this? But whatever. And then all of a sudden they had the group above us, the group that was in charge of the SEALs that were there. It's called the CJSOTF, the Combined Joint Special Operations Task Force. That group, they hosted a Halo tournament. Like, and all the different special operations groups went and did this Halo tournament. Okay. And I don't know if I'm proud of this or not proud of this, but two of my guys that entered the tournament, they won. But not only did they win, I guess the way you play Halo, you can die multiple times. And so after a certain number of times, like, you play to a certain number of deaths, I guess. But anyways, in the finals, these two guys beat the other guys that were from some army group or something. They beat them 50 deaths to 2. So I was just saying to myself, really? So anyways, the next deployment, guys were playing some other, I don't play video games, but the other guys played when we were in Ramadi, guys were playing, I want to say John Madden football.
That's a good one.
Yeah. See, I don't know, because I don't play video games.
Tekken.
Echo Charles. But what I was doing during those downtimes is, yes, bring mats and train jiu-jitsu. And there's always guys, even though there'd be plenty of guys playing video games, and we'd train jiu-jitsu for sure. And you should make time for it, because you know what? You think about being under a stressful situation. Well, what's going to help you with a stressful situation? A physical outlet, a little mental break. And guess what? Guess what gives you a physical outlet and gives you a mental break? Doing some jiu-jitsu. So, of course, there's times where we'd go in the field, or we'd have multiple back-to-back operations, and we wouldn't be able to train. No big deal. Of course, the job takes the total priority over it. But, yeah, so I would always train. And I'll tell you one more thing. When I would go on deployment, like, let's say you're a guy that trains and you go on deployment, well, there's going to be somebody that will train with you. Even if they're never trained before, somebody's going to go, yeah, I'll train with you. Yeah. And those guys, that happened to me, where I went on deployment with a bunch of guys that didn't know anything, and I just was teaching them. And when I came back from a 6-month deployment, this is before the war, I was definitely way better than I was before I left. So even though I was only training with guys that were not even close to as good as me, just training all the time and just going with guys, strong, tough team guys, made me better. And when I got back, I had improved a lot in comparison with the guys that I was training with before I left that were training all the time while I was gone. So you can make improvement. even if you just have bodies to move around and you can focus on your offense, you can put yourself in bad positions. So there's a bunch of ways to get better while you're doing it. So yeah, man, you can train on deployment for sure. We just had a couple guys come back from deployment from the Marine Corps, and they were out on a shipboard deployment. They trained all the time. They just came back to Victory MMA, and they've been training the whole time. They got good too. They improved their game a lot.
Yeah, I seen guys train. I think it was Army guys. They're training, and they train with the jacket on, and they use the jacket as the gi.
For sure.
Different, but kind of the same.
Oh yeah, it's the same. We, and I've done that too. In fact, the early days of jiu-jitsu for me, that's why when no gi started getting popular, I kind of knew no gi because we used to train in BDU pants, so like camouflage pants and a t-shirt. That sort of seemed like a good compromise.
Sure.
And plus Dean and I trained no gi a lot, even though Dean was training no gi because he wrestled and then
wasn't he doing MMA and stuff too? Right?
What he did no gi way before he did MMA.
Oh,
we were training no gi. I don't even know what. I'll have to ask Dean where the idea came, because even in Sambo you wear a jacket, right?
Right. Yeah, on the top.
And he was a Sambo guy too.
Interesting. Do you guys go like all when you train? Like, hey, I'm just one of the team guys. I don't train jiu-jitsu, and you're like, hey, let's go train. What do you do? Full on training, like for 6, 8-minute rounds, or what do you do?
It's the same thing. I mean, I've talked about it before. Like, I would get guys that were training, even if they're a lower level, and I would just train with all of them and just line them up and go. Yeah. And then they'd be training with each other too, and I would teach little classes and say, hey, this is how you do this. And, you know me, I kind of like to roll more, but so I would always end up rolling a lot. But, you get good, tough team guys that wrestled or they're a high school wrestler or they did judo. So there's guys and they always bring it. It's always good training with them.
Yeah, and they're moving. They're, they're not like...
And they got great cardio and they're strong. Oh, yeah. And then, anytime there was Marines around or soldiers around, there were some Rangers down the street from me. I trained with a few of those guys a couple times. So yeah, man, getting after it. You can definitely, you got to find a way to do it, and then you make time to do it.
Yeah. Next question. My boss instituted mandatory uncompensated monthly meetings with the added warning that if we miss them, there'd be repercussions. While this isn't an unjust move on his part, I'm choosing to remain silent and not complain. I decided that this is not enough of a pressing issue for me to speak out against. That way, the next time I decide to actually raise an issue over something, it'll have more of an impact. This was influenced by your decision to only ask your leadership for help only when absolutely necessary. Because of this, when you did ask for something, your request was taken much more seriously. Do you think this was the right way to lead up the chain of command in this scenario?
Yeah, I think that's a very good way to lead up the chain of command in that scenario. And you got to choose your battles because it is possible in any job to cry wolf. Right? It's possible to say, oh, this is the way we can't do this. And it's possible if you complain about everything, eventually you're not getting listened to anymore. So what I would do here, definitely attend the meetings, right? You show up for the meetings, you attend the meetings, you see what they're about, see what the deal is. What is he trying to accomplish? Maybe he has some really good thing that he's trying to accomplish. He's got to put out word, or we don't know yet. Maybe his vision is that he's only going to hold these mandatory meetings until he gets a flow and he gets everybody on board, and then he can go, cool, we don't have to do this anymore. You guys got it. I don't know what his vision is. What's he trying to make happen? Let's give him that credit as the leader to say, hey, you're calling this meeting. We're going to show up there. We're going to do our best to participate and get the most out of the meeting. Find out what it's all about. So go to the meetings. And then now you got your guys. So you might be a little bit worried about your guys, right? Saying, hey, why are you making us attend this meeting that the boss said we got to go to? And on that one, what I would likely do is make everyone attend a few of them. And I would do it. Say, hey guys, the boss is having a meeting. No, we're not going to get paid, but look, we're going to get word. We're going to find out what's going on. So I want everyone's got to be there, right? So you don't pass the buck. You maintain the responsibility of what's happening. You own it. And then maybe after a little while, though, you look at the boss and you say, hey, boss, you know what? These meetings are good to go. I'm getting a lot out of them, but I'm not going to I don't want to make my guys go. I want to pass the word to them. So is that all right if I have them skip the meetings, but I'll be there and then I'll put out the information? And, most likely you'll get a, hey, that sounds good, especially if you've been attending the meetings and you've been participating, you've been raising your hand and saying, taking notes and saying, yeah, we got that, boss. We can make that happen. If you've been... is that kissing ass? No. It's building a relationship, right? Now, there is a distinction, right, between kissing ass and building a relationship. And don't kiss ass, because you're not building a relationship when you kiss ass. As a matter of fact, people are turned off by it. So you don't want to be that guy. Hey, boss, what a wonderful meeting. I got so much out of it. No. Participate and get in the game. That's all I'm saying. I'm not saying kiss ass, because kiss ass isn't going to get you. It's gonna look bad. Yeah. I mean, are there some bosses that feed off of that? Yes, there are. And you might have to play that game a little bit. Not going to feel good. That's why we have to put our ego in check. Yeah. And then, that's what I would do. So I think you made the right call. Let's go to a bunch of these meetings, see what they're all about. And maybe, eventually you're saying, hey, boss, these are uncompensated. We could probably utilize these hours better if we did this or we did that. Yeah, so this is a good, straightforward method. I think you made the right call, and let us know how it goes. Yeah.
Yeah, that kissing ass thing. Everyone knows you're kissing ass. And
everyone does.
Even if really what you're doing is you're trading your long-term respect. You're trading that in for that short-term popularity. Yep. With just the boss, by the way. Uh-huh. Like all people,
because your popularity is going down.
Everyone else looking at you like, look at that guy. Mm-hmm. Kissing ass. Look at him. Even the boss, even if he likes it, there's a big part of his brain that's like, all right, I don't really respect.
So that's what I'm saying. That you don't have to kiss ass.
Right.
You don't have to kiss ass. But you know what what does the boss want? Someone that's kissing their ass and saying, wow, what a wonderful idea. Or someone that's actively participating like a professional. Yep. That's what they want. Yeah. That's what they want. Yeah, so do that.
Got to be down for the cause. Exactly. If you're like, dang, I'm down for the cause. I'll tell you when I have a problem with something. I'll tell you why, that kind of thing. But ultimately, if you're down for the cause, your boss's cause or the whole cause or whatever, that's
and so much of it changes with your attitude. Yeah. If your attitude is like, oh man, this is we gotta go to this meeting, we're not getting paid. But if your attitude is like, hey, this is really cool that the boss is stepping up, he's trying to get us engaged in this, I'm gonna go in there and get after it. That just totally changed your attitude right there. Yeah. I've done that a million times. Played that little game in my head. Said, all right, my boss is an idiot. You know what? I'm an idiot. Let's go. Let's make this happen. I'm gonna get after it. What stupid thing is he gonna tell me? You know what I'm gonna do with that stupid thing he tells me to do? I'm gonna crush it. I did that when I was going to officer candidate school. And there's this thing at officer candidate school where you have to yell everything that you say. They call it being ballistic. They say you got to be ballistic at all times. And it's pretty cool why they do it, actually. They do it because you get some people that are coming into the military. Because when you go to OCS, most of the people that are going through OCS with have never been in the military before. They're coming from college, and they graduated college, and now they're going to OCS. So they got 13 weeks to get turned into an officer. Mm-hmm. So what they do is they make you yell everything. Why do they do that? The reason they make you yell everything is because there's some people that aren't confident when they speak. Gotcha. And so everything that they're going to say, they're going to be shy about saying it. Well, at OCS, you've actually got to yell everything that you say, because you can't go on the bridge of a ship and say, can we turn the ship 90 degrees to the port? No. You have to speak up. You have to say, hey, we're turning 90 degrees port. I don't actually know what the command is, because I wasn't a surface warfare officer. But, you say, hey, we're going to turn 90 degrees port. You can't say it in a timid way. And so the way they beat that out of you is by making you yell every single thing that you do when you're in officer candidate school. So what we did was the upperclassmen that control you when you're going through, there's like a class that's getting ready to graduate, and they kind of control you when the drill instructors aren't there. And so they also make little money for their fund. And the way they make money for the fund is selling soda and candy in this little closet, right? I mean, it's authorized. So my class, I said, hey guys, when you go into, I was the class president. I said, when you go, I said, when you go into the office to buy candy or soda, which I don't recommend, but if you do, do it, go in there and be ballistic. And they were like, why? I go, do it, because those are the rules. And so everyone lined up, and they went in this little closet, and they're yelling at I would like one Coca-Cola and one Snickers bar, sir. And after 10 people, the person that's in there, the upperclassman, comes out and goes, you guys are no longer allowed to be ballistic. And that was the way that we won. By being, just kidding. And I actually did that in Buds, too, where I do stuff to the extreme, like you got to get wet and sandy in Buds, and which means you got to jump in the ocean and then roll around in the sand. Well, I would jump in the ocean, I would roll around in the sand, and then when you get back to the instructor that told you to go get wet and sandy, you'd have to go back to them and say, "Hoo-yah, Instructor Charles," to make sure that they knew that you got wet and sandy. So what I would do is I'd go. I didn't do it immediately, but when I figured out that I could do this, I did it. I would get wet. I would get sandy. I would completely cover every square inch of my body with sand. And then I would put sand into my mouth. I would fill my mouth with sand. And when I'd run up to say "Hoo-yah" to the instructor, when I'd say "Hoo-yah," dry sand would come out of my mouth. It was pretty fun. So I like to have that attitude. Like, oh, you want to make me do something? Great, I'll do it, and I'm going to do it with vigor and enthusiasm. And then we literally in my buds class, when at a certain point they told us we weren't allowed to get wet and sandy anymore. They literally told us that. And they said, no, you aren't allowed to get wet anymore. Yeah. And we were saying, what's wrong? And it was, no, you're not allowed. And that, so it actually, okay, well, I did it anyways.
It's kind of like they're like kind of pushing you down this hill with this expectation that you're going to be putting on the brakes or something.
Run to the fire.
Yeah. So like the more they push you down the hill, the more your natural tendency, hopefully, is going to be to put on the brakes. That's why all that works. You know, like, oh, go get wet and sandy. Like, oh, that sucks. But if you're like, wet and sandy time, let's do this kind of thing, then it's like, and then in a way you can put on the brakes when they say stop. You're like, okay, I don't got to get wet and sandy anymore.
One of my buddies, so there's something called flights where you run up this hill and you carry pallets. You know what a pallet is, right? They're made of wood or steel. Yeah. We had both there. They call them flights, and they actually have a little flight tower.
Just the drill is called flights?
It's called flights. And you put this thing on your back so you look like an airplane, and you run up this hill and come back down.
Right. Flying.
And you do it as a squad. And when you get back to the bottom, they'd say, okay, who came in last place?
Wait, how many one guy, one pallet?
Yeah, one guy per pallet. They'd be like, who came in last place? Mm-hmm. And I'd say, I came in last place. Then you got to do it again. Yeah. But the funniest was when you came back down, if you were slow or they just wanted to hammer you more, they'd say, hey, you're on fire. Go put it out. Which means you got to run then your pallet down to the ocean.
Oh, God.
And so one time I came back down. One time I came back down and they said, you have to request permission to land. And one time I came back down and said, I can't land, I'm on fire. And they go, okay, go take it hit the surf. But what was even better than that was a couple days later, I came back down and I said, request permission to touch and go, which in pilots is, you land and then you take right back off. So they go, permission granted. I turned right around and went back up there. That was pretty funny.
Doesn't that like just... Because basically that starts with just embracing the attitude, right?
Yeah.
That's what it starts with.
Have a good time with it.
Yeah, doesn't it result in all this crap? Let's face it, man. That go get wet and sandy. I mean, from a normal standpoint,
is allegedly not fun. It's so fun.
Neither is the flights. Bro, you explained that the flights is not cool. But doing it that way, it's just as hard kind of physically, but
it's a little bit
the
harder.
Experience... it's a little harder.
It's a little bit harder.
But the experience is way better, though. You know
what I
mean?
And then we always had a good time when we were doing, like, we used to go when we were on a ship, and you'd go and the ship do something called an unrep, where they load gear, they load food and supplies and fuel from another ship, and we would go help. But we would turn it into like a sport where we're trying to move as much boxes as we can, and guys, we're all sweating and just getting after it. And instead of being, because it's whatever, it sucks, right? Because you got to go up there and move a bunch of boxes, like a moving party, basically. Yeah. But we actually turned it into a moving party. Emphasis on party. We would go out and have fun, be laughing, throwing stuff, and just basically getting after it, even though it was just labor. But why not have a good time?
Bro, that's a good idea. You gotta really man up with it for sure. But if you can kind of flip that switch. Bro, that's good.
Yeah, it changes everything, man. When you get that good attitude going.
Yeah.
Make it fun.
It's good, man. Those pallets.
Yeah, flights.
We do on Kauai, Polihali. Huge beach. Huge sand. Mm-hmm. To get to the beach. 7-mile beach, by the way.
Nice.
Make bonfires with those pallets.
Oh, yeah. You didn't carry them up your back on the
hill? No. We use the truck for sure. Next question.
Let's do it.
Do you have any recommendations for careers that are similar to the military and or careers that are based on leadership? Context. Here's the context. I applied to the Canadian Armed Forces to be a signals officer, and I failed my medical. Signals officer, you know what that is?
Yeah, it's basically a communications officer.
Right.
Yep.
Okay, so currently looking for alternatives.
Well, I'm not sure what the physical shortfall is. I'm going to assume that the physical shortfall was something that was disqualified you from any type of military. So maybe you have really bad vision. Maybe you have really bad hearing in an ear. Maybe you have some irregular heart thing. Maybe there's just some blood type, just something. There's a bunch of things that can do that to people. And so I'm going to assume that it was bad enough that you can't join the military at all. Okay. The next thing is, can you get into some kind of police or law enforcement? That's the next question, because maybe there's something that disqualifies you from the military, but you could still get into police and law enforcement. And by the way, if you can't get into that, what kind of, maybe some kind of an anti-terror agency that you could possibly go into? And I would say the next step from there is, what kind of an intelligence agency you could go work for? What kind of a person, could you be a person that learns a language, that learns, some technical skills that allows you to pursue people through the interwebs? There's a lot of terror happening on the interwebs, and it needs to be stopped. So who's doing that? Cyber war. Cyber war is real. I mean, it's real. So is there something that you could pursue in there? And guess what? You're doing it virtually, right? But you're still hunting down terrorists and catching bad guys and preventing terror attacks. So even though it's not, shooting a machine gun, it still has a huge impact. And I'll tell you what, in the future, it might even have a bigger impact than the guys that are shooters. So there's that avenue to look at. And same thing in law enforcement. There's certain professions that you can get where you're not actually a police officer, but you're a forensic scientist that goes and looks at crime scenes and tries to figure out what happened. So there's definitely some roads to go down there. Then there's firefighting, of course. There's being a paramedic. That's another good one. Those are all service based. And so that's like a whole group, right? That's a whole thing.
Yeah.
And then let's say you can't do any of those things. Well, then what? Well, for me, it's really easy. Construction, software engineering, being a salesperson, going into technology, being a plumber, being an electrician, going into automotive repair. What? Like what? All those jobs. If you are getting after in those jobs, they're all, you can excel, you can own your own company, you can get after it, you can lead, you can make a ton of money. Any one of those jobs, you can make a ton of money. Any of them. If you are a professional and you take pride in your work and I saw something the other day. I wish I could find it. I'd try and post again. It was just a plumber had obviously done this massive job where all these pipes were all coming and going into one thing. And there was, probably 20 or 30 little pieces of pipe, but they were all perfectly aligned, perfectly exact. And it was in some, storage, mechanical room, but it just looked like so professional. And that's the kind of thing that, no matter what your job is, what are you going to do? All you need to do is step up and get after it. And all those jobs, any job that you're doing, that your work, that you enjoy, do something that you enjoy. And what makes you enjoy things? To me, what makes you enjoy things is doing them well and practicing and getting good at them and having pride in your work. That's awesome. So I would say, you got to go. You got to find something that you like doing and get after it.
A lot of times, just in general, as far as finding what you want to do. Sometimes people are like, hey, I like to, surf. So I'm going to go be a surf instructor or something like that. Usually how to find what you want to do doesn't have to do directly. It's like, what are the things that stimulate you or motivate you or whatever that make you like surfing or make you like whatever. It's like, so a lot of it is real like basics. Like I like problem solving this way or something like that. So tip there is look at what you like to do or like what you like to watch on TV instance, or whatever.
I like to work with my hands. Okay, right. Good. Then you need to be a carpenter. You need to be a plumber. You need to be an electrician. Yeah. Oh, I like to work with my brain. Okay. You like to solve problems. Okay, become a software engineer where you're trying to figure out how to map all those things together, or a statistician. I like numbers. I'm going to be a stat. So yes, absolutely. What are you interested in? And then what job requires that type of mindset and skill? Because it's always fun because I work with so many different companies in every different industry. And whenever I meet, there's always a group of people that are just into their job, right? They're into it. And they want to be the best, and it doesn't matter what it is. And I've had, I work with companies, every different industry, and sometimes I think to myself, well, this is a weird industry. I kind of just think, it's weird that I'm going to work with this particular company because this is a weird industry. Right. And then I meet the person that's bringing me in, and they're talking to me about their business like they're going into combat. And I mean that in the most positive way. They're like, hey, this is what we want to do. This is our vision right here. And they're talking about, selling shampoo. I mean, you know what I mean? Like just something that they're into, and they just want to do the best that they can at it. And that becomes a passion and a fuel. So it's fun to watch. It's fun to watch. And it translates, the attitude that they bring to it and the leadership that they bring to it translates into their whole life. That's what makes people successful in business and life, is when they bring that attitude of I'm going to do this the best of my ability, and I'm going to grow, and I'm going to get better, and I'm going to find my weaknesses, and I'm going to work on those. And the next thing you know, these people are owning their own businesses, and it's awesome.
Yeah. Next question.
Let's do that.
Why do you never or rarely swear or use profanity? Yeah, bro. Why do you never swear? Anyway, that's part A of the question. Why do you never swear or use profanity? Part B of the question is, what do you do to combat burnout? My schedule isn't helping. I'm a prosecutor, constantly overrun with violence and despair, up at 5 a.m. to play music or read. A Jiu Jitsu purple belt, trying to keep up with the young monsters on the mat. But never seem to have enough time because life is always making huge demands, and trying to get better at gymnastic strength training without neglecting my wife and my dog. Thanks for encouraging us regular fellas to dig a little deeper and try a little harder.
Well, the swearing question, we actually talked about that already on one of the earlier podcasts. I don't know which number, but it's covered in great detail. I think it's an 18-minute conversation. Let's not rehash that one.
And just to clarify that, it more appropriate, we'll just say the question would be to modify this. Say, why do you never or rarely swear on while you're recording?
That is true.
Because you get your swear on from time to time.
I give myself 6 foul language usages per month.
Dang,
outside,
okay. Outside recording. Yeah, no.
I'm just kidding. Yes, I do swear. I think it's.
You think that's cool? Huh? So cool.
I don't know if it's cool or not, but I do it. But I don't swear here, and I don't swear when I'm presenting, and I don't swear in front of my wife and kids, and I.
Really, not in front of your wife?
Not really.
Not to say that's bad or nothing, but that's interesting.
Not really.
For sure.
No, I mean, I try and give her some respect and speak. In fact, when I do swear in front of her, I do it knowingly that I'm trying to make some kind of a statement about something.
Yeah, like emphasizing.
Yeah,
something.
Really emphasize something.
Dang. Okay.
So,
cool, man. That's good.
Hey. Okay, now let's get to the combating burnout. First of all, it sounds like this guy right here has a lot going on, which is awesome. Good for you. Yes. That's killer. Welcome to life, right? Now, a couple things, right? And I guess this might be a little bit of a theme tonight, but you got to make it fun, right? Instead of viewing these things like an oppressive grind, I mean, just the way that, the mats, I go on the mats, I don't have time, and life is making huge demands, and I'm trying to do just gymnastic strength training, but without neglecting my wife. And it's like everything is a grind. No, it's not. You have the opportunity to do gymnastics. You got a wife and you got a dog. That's awesome. As Echo would say, that's dope right there. So what, instead of looking at them like that, let's look at them at what we can do to get more done. Okay, first of all, what kind of time constraints can you put on things, right? Force yourself to do some things faster, okay? for instance, reading first thing in the morning, I don't know. I don't agree with that. Like, why would you get up in the morning and read? Reading? No. End of the day. Okay? Playing music first thing in the morning? Playing music should be fun and enjoyable, as should be. So getting up and going, okay, I'm going to go play music, you're turning it into a labor, right? You're turning it into a labor. It should be something that's winding you down at the end of the night. So when you wake up in the morning, do something that requires some discipline and has you get after it a little bit and wakes you up a little bit more, right? Another thing is, Jiu Jitsu. This is a weird question. How fast can you train Jiu Jitsu? Because I can tell you for many, many years, and also what part of Jiu Jitsu is important to you and what part are you getting the most out of? Because for many, many years, especially once the war started, when I would show up to train basically at the end of class, and I still do this sometimes. I show up when Dean is done teaching, when Jeff is done teaching. Believe me, if I had unlimited hours, I would sit there and absorb everything that they have to say. I learned something from Dean the other day. I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe what I learned from Dean the other day. I couldn't believe that I didn't know it. I couldn't believe that I didn't know it. I couldn't believe how well it worked. And I couldn't believe that bastard never taught it to me, which made me really angry. But that's the way it is. I've been training for 20 years, and he taught me a basic, fundamental thing that I did not know. So if I could, of course, I'd be in there all the time, learning, absorbing. Glover's the same way. Glover teaches you little things, and he goes, oh, you should do this right here. Oh, man, how did I not know that? So I would learn all I could, but I don't have much time for that. So what do? Show up when that stuff's over, and I go and I train. Yeah. Get it on. And how fast, that's what I'm saying, is how fast can you, what gets you the most impact in the shortest amount of time? So for me, I always feel if I don't have time to take an hour and a half class, that's, a 10-minute warm up, 30 minutes or 40 minutes of instruction, 10 minutes, 20 minutes of drilling, and then half an hour of rolling or however long that all put together is. But I'm going to show up. For me, the most important part at this juncture in my jiu-jitsu career is the rolling. So I'm going to show up for that last, 40 minutes, 45 minutes. I'm going to get my rounds in. Maybe that's what you need to do, because you don't have time to take an hour and a half class with all that other stuff. So see if you can do that. The other thing you might have to do is prioritize and execute the extracurricular activities. Right? Well, you got gymnastics going on, you got BJJ going on, you got reading, you got music going on. How do you bring those things together, or how do you prioritize them so that you focus on which one's going to be the most important? That's the bottom line, right? Because you might not have time to do everything, and so you might be just dabbling in all of them and not making any progress in any of them. Oh yeah. Huh. So that's not good. Another thing. How can you manipulate your work schedule, right? What can you do at your work schedule that you could squeeze something in? For instance, do people take a lunch break? I haven't taken lunch in the SEAL teams. I didn't take lunch. Why would you take lunch? Like, oh, I'm going to go for an hour of time and go to a place and sit down and eat. No, I'm going to eat at my desk while I'm working. So I'm never going to take lunch. So maybe during your work, people, hey, we're going to go down and have some lunch. Cool. That's when I'm going to go do, 500 burpees or whatever. I'm going to go run to the gym real quick and get a workout, and I'm going to do my sprints or whatever. So see what can you do there? Maybe you could get more work done in this time when you're waking up early because you want to get after it. Maybe that's the time when you should go to the job because no one's going to bother you. You can get a bunch of work done, and then you can take a break from 7 until 9 when the rest of everyone's coming in with their coffee and want to talk to you. No, that's when you're working out, or that's when you're doing something else. So how can you maximize it? I used to do this when we used to have to write evaluations for all of our guys, and it's a big pain in the Navy, and they have to be perfect, and they're getting recording guys' records. So you want them to be perfect. You want to take the effort because this is how the guys get evaluated so they can get advanced. So you want to take your time with it. But during we'd get, I was in charge, so I get these big stacks of evals that I have to go through, and it's correct. It's basically doing corrections of papers over and over and over again until they're perfect. And it's meticulous work. And so what I would do is during that time period, it would take like a month to get it done. I wouldn't work out first thing in the morning. I would go to work immediately in the morning, and while everyone else was either not there or I would work. And then when everyone showed up, at 11, I'd go work out during lunch. And just, if you want to come talk to me, because everyone always wants to talk to you, right? Everyone always got something to say to you.
Jamming you up.
You can't just leave me alone because I'm trying to work. But so how can you manipulate your work to maximize what you're getting out of it? Another thing is maybe take a little break from some of the activities. Maybe take a break from music. Maybe take a break from, or maybe you say, oh, you know what? I've been doing an hour of music a day. I'm going to change that. I'm going to do, for the next month, I'm only going to do 15 minutes just to keep my skills maintained, but I'm not going to progress, and I understand that. Or maybe you take a break from the mats for 2 weeks. I can tell you, if you're training every day, a 2-week break from the mat, in many cases, myself, definitely, I take a jump up. I get better if I take a break. That's why travel for me, I don't like it when it goes on all the time, but I go away for 6 days and don't train. I come back and I feel a little bit better. I have some stuff gels in the brain. So, yeah, I have no problem. That used to make Dean, one time I came home from deployment, and Dean and I were training, and I was just so fired up, coming, and I was kind of smashing him. And I'm yelling at him, I've been on deployment. I've been overseas. What have you been doing back here? How come I'm crushing you? Blah, blah, blah. I'm just crushing him that day. And so he went home that night, and he made us, this is when you had to burn CDs. He made a CD that was called Kill Jocko. That was all of his favorite, whatever, metal songs. And he came back, and the next day he came back and destroyed me.
Killed Jocko.
Yeah, he did kill Jocko that next day. But, yeah, so taking a break sometime just to focus on some of the other stuff. The other thing, okay, you got your wife and your dog. Spend time with them while you're doing these activities, right? Your dog can go running with you, right? That's awesome. Your dog can come to the park, watch you do pull-ups, right? Your dog can chase the kettlebell that you're throwing, or whatever, the shot put or the medicine ball. You can have. Be careful if you're throwing your kettlebell around your dog. That might have been bad advice. You throw kettlebells. I was with my buddy. We were in New Jersey one time, and we went and threw kettlebells. It was wintertime, and we were throwing kettlebells, and the kettlebells it was part of the workout was you had to dig the kettlebell back up out of the mud.
Oh, right,
it was pretty funny. Anyways, so my point was saying that if you threw your kettlebell and it hit a dog, it would not be good. So don't do that one. But take your dog with you to the park. Go have fun, hang out. And same thing with your wife. Your wife doesn't want to do some jiu-jitsu? My wife did jiu-jitsu before she was pregnant so much she was coming to the gym with me all the time. She was training, and then let's bring it into the family a little bit. Get her in gymnastics. Get your Tim Ferriss acro yoga on with your girl, right? Yeah. That's the same thing. Get her in the game. Have her lay down some vocal tracks, right? Got maybe little backing vocals from mama. Let's hear what that sounds like. And that way you're doing the stuff that you want to do, but you're bringing your family into the game a little bit. And like I said, man, have fun. Because all these things that you're talking about, even being a prosecutor, which I'm sure, like you said, embeds you in just violence and disturbing things all the time, and it's a challenging job, but enjoy that challenge. And how can you do it better, and how can you win? I'm going to have fun with it. And I had fun all the time. I had fun overseas. I had fun in Iraq. I had fun in the bowels of a ship that I was deployed on for 6 months. I'm going to have fun and laugh hysterically at things. And it's the same thing with music and with working out and jiu-jitsu. Man, you got to enjoy them all. And just like when you're on the mat, you're competing against these young monsters. Don't just try and compete with everybody. Just try and get better. Because that is winning. And that's what's going to make you better in the long run. Because that'll make you stick with things. Make you stick with them. Because if you don't enjoy jiu-jitsu, why would you do it for 25 years? If you don't enjoy music, why would you keep practicing it? So my final thought on this, man, my brother, have some fun with this stuff.
Yeah, and being a prosecutor, that's the kind of job where even when you go home, bro, it's still in your mind, So as far as the whole experience, it's like, dang, my job is taking up so much time. It's true. So yeah, I would imagine that would make it more of a difficult thing to balance.
You got to figure out that way to leave your job at work.
Yeah.
Right? We want to excel at it. I just had this conversation with a guy today. Just because if you're looking at you can't, the way you're going to do your job better as a prosecutor is not by just being 100% focused on that 100% of the time. You will not do a better job. Right. If you do a good job, if you focus on that a lot and you still do jiu-jitsu and you still train and you still get after it and how many good ideas? I have so many good ideas that come to me when I'm working out, when I'm doing yard work, because you gotta give your brain a little space to think. Right. It's just like planning a SEAL operation. If you're sitting there looking at the map from 2 inches away the whole day, trying to get this plan perfect, you're not going to see everything. And it's the same thing with any job that you have. If you get yourself totally wrapped around that job, you're not going to have the proper detachment from the job to see the bigger picture. So you must get some space between you and your job so you can think properly.
Yeah. And just like, and that other element, like everything you do, studying, working out is like this, where you work hard, you get your reps, and then you get your rest. You can't be doing push-ups all day, every single day, you know?
You won't get stronger, actually. Yeah. You're right.
So when, just like studying, where they say, like, I guess when you study or memorize or both, whatever, and then you go to sleep, that's when they get your neural connections.
Get solidified?
When you sleep. That's not when you're studying. So if you're cramming for a test for 2 days straight, no sleeping,
that won't help you as much as studying for 4 hours properly, getting some good sleep.
Go get your rest, So that's the same thing with the job, get grind on the job. Yep. And then, man, forget about it for a little bit. Yep. When you come back,
it'll make you better. The same. It's weird. Coincidentally, that's what I just said happens at jiu-jitsu.
Exactly right.
Just said that.
Yep. Exactly right. And a little tip, and I don't know if this would, I know this because I know how that feels when you're like, dang, I work so much and I don't have time to go work out or whatever, or I'm always pressed for time or whatever. You can kind of overlap the two. So what I did, I'd go to work, and then right after work, I'd go home, I'd change, and then I'd go to the gym, and then I'd be like, man, I don't have time for anything. If I expect to work out as much as I need to in my mind, or as much as I want, like, I don't have time for anything else. Because the thing, you kind of do have time when you start to overlap. So, and this will sound real obvious and simple, but sometimes you miss these little things. So what I ended up doing, which a lot of people do, is you just bring your workout clothes and your pre-workout to work, and then go straight to the gym.
You saved yourself all kinds of time. Yeah, you actually got your workout. You saved 40 minutes just by doing that. That was your workout.
Yeah. And that's not to mention when you go home, a lot of time you have this. A lot of time it's subconscious too. It's you start to just mellow out. You're like, I'm home, boom, I mellow. So the chance of you skipping a workout becomes higher. That's a different thing for sure. But that seems like an obvious thing, like, if you're going to work out after work, it seems obvious, I know, but there's other things just like that in like life where let me just overlap them, just like eating lunch at your desk.
Yeah. Same exact thing. It's just straight up efficiency. Maybe we'll have to do a whole podcast on just how to be more efficient.
Yeah. So if you're keeping your eyes open for, okay, how can I overlap here, overlap there? And you'll be like, oh, dang, I got 2 hours at the end of the day right now. Yep. Or just more time to do more stuff,
Yeah.
So just keep your eyes open, man. And the jiu-jitsu thing too, back to the jiu-jitsu real quick. You said try to just focus on like the parts that help you the most. Like come in, don't quote unquote, for lack of a better term, waste your time on like the warm up, and if that's not where you get the most learning. Before you do that, clear it with the instructor.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Because the instructor, they don't dig it when you just skip the warm up, roll in when it's time to roll.
Yeah,
in fact, that's like a thing. So you gotta say like a lot. Like I'll do that too.
Talk to your instructor and say, hey, I'm working a bunch right now. I got this case going on, and I got to get through it. And so I'm only gonna come 3 times a week, and all I have time for is just to come in and roll. Yeah. Is that cool with you? Yeah. What are they gonna say? No.
Yeah. Or just say at this time. Because if you say, I can only have time to roll, they're like, you want to skip my lesson then? That's the part you chose to skip. So you say, hey, I can only come in at this time. Well, I've been in that situation where, I've been working on this thing and also other schedules. I had my new baby and all this stuff. So it's like, dang, the only time I can come in realistically was to get there at like 12:35.
Just to get you rolling.
Yeah. When the instruction starts at noon, and then I know Jeff was like, please, higher belt thinks he can just roll. I don't know if he thought this or not. It's probably me being I felt it, but it could have been me being paranoid. Greg encourages that, by the way. Greg Train. He encourages if you get more out of just rolling than you do the lesson, like when you get to a certain belt and you know how your learning starts to take shape, like what you learn better. He encourages it. But
the only thing is that, like, I just saying what I just learned from Dean the other day, and what other things have I missed?
Yeah, but
you know what I mean?
But that's an opportunity cost situation. You know.
Yeah, but dang, that's important stuff. Maybe I missed it.
But
But you know what I do is I always like, even if I get there a little bit late, I'll be like, I'll look and see what moves they showed, and I'll figure out if there's anything I didn't know.
Yeah, but how can you figure out if there's something you didn't know?
No, because I say, hey Jeff, what'd you teach today? Or I'll watch guys like, what'd you guys learn? What'd you guys go over today? And this, and I'll go, hey Jeff, how does that work? Or I'll say, hey Dean, what's this thing here? So I'll just ask them, you know.
Basically reteach the whole class.
No, not reteach, because like you just said, my learning is developed. So all they need to say is, hey, we went over this escape right here, or we went over this finish, and here's how you do it, or this transition.
Right.
So.
Yeah. But that one, you got to kind of communicate.
Respect your instruction.
Yeah, you totally got to. Next question. I've encountered an issue in the workplace I've never dealt with before. I'm a former Air Force STO. STO?
Yep. That's like a combat controller. They call in aircraft. They call for fire. They set up airstrips in the field. Mm-hmm. Really cool job.
Okay, as it says here. Or as you may affectionately know us as combat controller. Okay. I'm now a civilian mechanical engineer. Dang, big up. In the oil and gas industry. Through attrition, the people I work closely with have learned a little about what it is I used to do. I'm treated noticeably different as a result. For example, some refer to me as Mr. SF now. My current approach is just to laugh it off and ignore it. But how can I respectfully indicate that when I'm in the office, I'm not that anymore and no different than anyone else?
Well, I think you're taking the right approach, and that is to ignore it. I think there's probably something about your history, right, that people get a little bit either intimidated or comfortable with in some way because they think all of a sudden, you know, you're this different type of thing. But I think it is definitely something where, well, in the SEAL teams, the minute you say, hey, don't call me that, like people, that's your nickname for life if you say that. So, you know, I think, you know, for one thing, it sounds like you're not referring back to your time in the service a lot. But another thing is a subtle thing is don't answer to, you know, Mr. SF. Just don't answer to it. And I'm not saying you have to be a jerk about it, but if someone says Mr. SF, hey, Mr. SF, you just like keep doing what you're doing and so don't reinforce that that's what they should call you, right? That's just like a basic thing. But I think you're doing the right thing. And I mean, if you ever wanted to say something about it, again, the minute you say something about it, now all of a sudden it turns into a big deal. Now people are whispering like, hey, he doesn't like to talk about it.
Right.
So now we're in that situation. He doesn't like to talk about it. So, man, just ignore it. Keep working. And I mean, carry on with your mission with these guys in the gas oil. And there's a bunch of veterans in the gas oil industry. I don't know why they're, you know, when we work with gas oil, there's a bunch of vets. Maybe that's more on the front line troopers, but man, I met a bunch of veterans. So I don't know. Maybe they saw a little reaction they got from you.
Yeah.
So let's make sure we're not doing that. Just ignore it and carry on. The best thing you can do, right? In the SEAL teams, if somebody does something that annoys you, do not show it. Same thing in like my family with my kids. Man, when my kids figure out that something annoys one of my other kids, they just relentless annihilation with that, whatever that thing is. And I did that when I was a kid. You know, my sisters and I, we were so mean to each other on whatever. And that's sort of, I don't know, I guess that's sort of a tradition in my family is, you know, it's sort of a tradition of no emotional mercy, right? If you find something, you're just going to grind on it. And that's the way it works. And also no credit. No credit will be given. There's no credit will be given. You know, it's just like, oh yeah, whatever. Yeah. So, but yeah, man, ignore it. They'll get over it.
Kind of like on Lionheart. Remember Lionheart when he's like, he goes, It's a Van Damme movie, man. Anyway, he goes into the final thing against that big guy.
You should do another podcast without me where you talk about cheesy movies.
Bruh, I'm telling you, it's the same. It doesn't matter the movie cheesy or not. It's the exact same concept. You can't show it. So he goes in, broken rib. All the money's on, the table, whatever. Broken rib. He's like, he gets hit in the rib. Oh, no, he doesn't get hit in the rib. He goes to hit him in the rib, and he flinches like all quick. And the big guy he's fighting, goes, he boom. He flinches all quick, and he goes, see what I'm saying? Can't show that.
Don't show that. Good.
Is it ever okay?
This is next question, by the way.
Yeah.
Next question.
Yeah, sure. Oh, right. This isn't just my question. I'm busting out in the middle of the last one. Okay, yeah. Is it ever okay to violate core values to achieve a goal?
Okay. So first of all, really obvious, your values and your goals should be aligned. They should not be adversarial. They shouldn't be counter to each other. And if you think about what your goals are, your goals should be set up in a way that they support your values and vice versa. That's just the way it is. So I'm not sure where this is going to be an issue. If you're setting up goals that are contrary to your values, you got some issues. Now, I guess if you had the goal of winning the blue belt Jiu Jitsu championships, and in order to win, you cheated, like you claimed someone was reaping your leg and you said, oh, you tap and you get the guy to qualified and you win. That could be an example, right?
Yeah.
Now, do I support that? No. That's wrong. You go win against the values of martial arts to do that. So you didn't win anything and you didn't achieve your goal because you weren't actually the best.
Right.
So I say no on that one. Another one, let's say you wanted to make a certain level of profit at your company. So you cheated a little bit on the quality of the manufacturing and you sold items that weren't quite reliable. Do I support that? No, right? And why? Let me tell you why. Because your goal is not even aligned with your goal itself. Because when you start making substandard manufactured items, what's going to happen in the long run? People are going to say, hey, we don't like these. Yeah. We're not going to buy them anymore. So you didn't win. You might have won in the short term, but you didn't win. And again, you're going against your value. You should have values that you don't want to, take profit over making good product. And again, in the long run, that value is going to cost you, right? People aren't going to want to buy your product anymore. Okay, another one I could think of, like, let's say your goal was to lose weight or to gain weight or whatever, some kind of positive physical change. And so you're working hard, but then you decide you're going to jump on the steroids, right? You're going to jump on steroids. And you get that goal, right? Because steroids are a huge advantage. But again, I say no, because if you think about what your goal is, like, why are you trying to gain weight or lose weight? Your goal is to be healthy, right? That's your value, is you value your health. Mm-hmm. And so when the minute you start doing something that's counter to your health, well, that's not helping your long-term. Your value is not aligned with your goal, and your goal is not aligned with your value. So get them lined up. Mm-hmm. So now, might we at some point compromise our values to reach a goal? I think that changes the answer a little bit, right? We might compromise. You remember that question that we had about the people that are snakes and how do you work with them? Should you work with someone that's dishonest or backstabbing, but they're a cog in the machine of your team? Mm-hmm. And your values, right? They might be to call the person out and say, hey, you're a backstabber and I don't want to work with you. That might be what your values tell you to do. But your goal, and if you do that, first of all, you don't progress. Your team doesn't work better together. They work worse together. And so in the long run, you don't win because you stuck hardcore with your values. And by the way, if you stick with if you bend your values, you compromise your values a little bit to get through this transitional period, now you get promoted. Now you get in a situation where you can fire that person that's a backstabber. Mm-hmm. So you have to compromise your values as a person a little bit. And there's the enemy of my enemy is my friend, right? The enemy of my enemy is my friend. So you might compromise your values short term, working somebody that you're not totally aligned with value-wise. And again, if you're going to get the long-term strategic goal, well, then maybe it's worth it because it's going to put you in a position where you can then hold your values better from a senior position or from a more powerful position. So you might compromise them a little bit. Again, these are small compromises, and you should have things. Of course, we got things that values that you're never going to compromise on, right? Hitting a girl,
Yeah.
right? You should never hit a girl, right? Never hit a woman. Now, with that being said, if there's a woman that's about to do something truly evil, kill a child or some kind of a terrorist act, and the only thing you have that you can stop it is to hit her, well, guess what? She's getting hit. You know what I mean? So even then, your value of never hitting a girl can be compromised momentarily while you stop a child from being murdered or whatever.
Yeah.
We hold a value. We always want to tell the truth. Mm-hmm. But if you had for an extreme example, if you had some kind of a state secret and you got captured, well, of course you might lie about that. And there's little, we could get into a whole like white lie discussion on stuff. Mm-hmm. Like when your wife asks you, how's the chicken? And you want to tell her it's the most dry and charcoal tasting item that you've ever put in your mouth. That's not going to help you long term.
No.
So I might compromise my values of being truthful and tell her, it's pretty good. Can I have some more ketchup over here? Can I get some more barbecue sauce on this?
Ketchup on chicken.
And I'm going to go grab some more water. Would you like some? So I might compromise my values a little bit there. So I guess what I'm saying is, and people, this is the thing, people probably what they think of my persona, because people will think, oh, Jocko's going to be this uncompromising, never settle, allow no slack kind of person, right? That's what people want to see me as. But the reality is reason, right? Reason and thought can override values for the right reasons. And that's why we can think. That's why we can think. And there's actually times when holding your values goes against your values. So if you always back up your friends, right? You always back up your friends, but then your friend does something that's totally immoral and is against your values. Well, then you can't hold the value of backing up your friends, because guess what? They did something immoral. They did something that was wrong. And so if you held your values, you'd be not holding your values. That's the dichotomy there, right? That's the dichotomy. And the additional dichotomy is you hold to your values, right? You hold to those basic principles that you believe in, but at the same time, you've got to apply logic and reason to them to make sure that they are supporting your long-term goal and your long-term values. Because you don't want to make a hard stand on something that costs you everything, where now in the future you can no longer manipulate any more situations. That's one of the things that makes leadership and life hard, is that it isn't black and white. It isn't black and white. It's gray. And so our decisions on these very things, these are the challenges of leadership. And there's no way, right or wrong answer of saying if it's right or wrong to violate your values to achieve a goal. That initial question, there's too many variables in that. There's too many variables. But start with this part that I started the whole answer with: align your values with your goal. That's where you start, and then you use reason and logic and thought to determine your actions based on the situation weighed against your values. You have to think.
Yeah. So, given what you're saying,
yes,
it's less like just values, like you have a dinner plate with here's my values kind of thing. It's more of a hierarchy of values. So you will violate your values if it's on, level 2 for a level 4. You know what I mean? Like I'll knock a girl right out if it's in the way of my higher value, which is
Protect your family.
protecting my family,
Yep.
kids, all this stuff. Same thing with
Girls, don't mess. Ladies out there, don't mess with that guy's family.
Yeah, please don't.
Coming at you.
Obviously, same thing with it's ratting on or backing up your friend.
Yeah.
My value is backing up my friend. That's level 2. The whole immoral thing, assaulting a girl, I don't know, whatever
Yeah.
that's level 4. So sorry, number 2. I'm going for number 4 kind of. So it's like a hierarchy.
Yeah, you got a little hierarchy of values, and then there's some, obviously there's some that I can't even, you could give any of one of your highest values that you could come up with, and you could sit here and theoretically come up with a situation where you would sacrifice that value.
Yeah, and that's the hierarchy.
That's just
right
the way
there.
it is.
Yeah.
So that's why we're humans. We have the ability to think. We have the ability to reason. And sometimes you might have to compromise your values a little bit to
uphold the higher ones.
Right.
Yeah.
To survive and get so that you can long term carry out your values to a higher degree.
Yeah. Yeah, like and back to the people want to lose weight,
Yeah.
If usually people who I don't know, I guess I would imagine that usually people who take steroids, their value isn't the health. It's like, because people typically,
true.
unless it's a medical thing,
That's a good point.
the steroids ain't for health. It's for to win or to
Look
be
good.
cool. Yeah, which is kind of strange, but it's usually to win a competition or something like this. But nonetheless, I think that holds true, given what you said, and I think it's kind of coming together there. I think that it is like a hierarchy of values.
Yeah. And if someone's going to use steroids to cheat, even that, it's a whole nother discussion.
Yeah.
But what are they really proving? What are they really winning?
Right. Yeah, and that goes back to, remember, I forget what we were talking about. Like, some people, like, they want to appear to win. Especially now, you can see it on online. You don't spend that much time just cruising Facebook, but you can see someone that I don't know. They're about to murder each other, husband and wife. They hate each other. They don't even sleep in the same room, but they went on vacation with their kids or whatever, and they're like, oh, so in love in front of the Ferris wheel or the waterfall or whatever. And you're like, bro, you just want people to think you win. You just want to appear that you won, But
it's not real.
That's why people cheat. Yeah, that's why, like the Jiu Jitsu thing, when they're like, okay, I'm gonna say this guy reap my leg, I'm gonna tap. Oh, he's DQ'd. You can't do that, but you cheated, kind of thing. His goal wasn't to win; it was just to get the medal. So it's
his
getting
goal
the medal
is to win,
to appear,
but he doesn't have the proper values actually,
or be the winner.
He needs to check his values. He needs to check his hierarchy of values. That's what he needs to do.
So. Yeah, so he didn't want to actually win. He wanted the medal to appear that he won, kind of thing. Next question. Is there any way to recalibrate the flight or fight response? I get that excess in adrenaline. I get that excess in adrenaline that gives me the wobbly legs and the flight response. How do I go about remapping my reaction?
Well, absolutely. And I'm not 100% sure what situations you're talking about, but any type of danger, right, gives you this flight or fight response. So train. It starts with training. Jiu Jitsu, boxing, Muay Thai, wrestling, shooting, competing, right? You get used to those butterflies when you compete. You get those butterflies and you get used to them. And so train and get used to seeing how that reaction, what that adrenaline feels like, and also get used to understanding what the superior action is, right? Fight or flight. Because sometimes flight is the correct response. Sometimes fight is the correct response. But what you want to do is you want to be able to assess and dictate which response you're going to give and not just do whatever your instinct tells you, because sometimes your instinct might be wrong. And so, again, I don't know what the situation where you're going into, but whatever it is, because people get the fight or flight response to everyday things too, like public speaking, right?
Oh, yeah.
Rock climbing. And that's why I say, do these things. Train in them. So public speaking, rock climbing, if you want to get good at rock climbing, you want to get over that fight or flight response when you get out, go rock climbing. You'll get used to it. You scared of heights, go start parachuting. you'll get used to it. You're scared of the water, get worked up and go through swimming and then become scuba certified. Just the things that you're not comfortable with, get comfortable with being uncomfortable. And while you're doing them too, while you're doing them, pay attention. You got to detach a little bit when you're training, detach a little bit and see what is going on in your mindset. See what red flags that you can see, what things will make you aware of the fact that your nerves or your adrenaline and you're feeling yourself clenching your fist. Okay, so I'm clenching my fist. Be aware of it so that you can change it, so you can adjust it. And put yourself into these scenarios and escalate them so they get harder and harder and harder and worse and worse and worse until you start to get control of these things.
Here's something weird. No, it's not weird. You're not going to think this is weird. But what I used to get super nervous about, fight or flight response.
It's public speaking, right?
Yeah, but that's not
worse than that.
That's not the story. No, not worse necessarily, but just a different thing. Is like confrontation. Like hey, whether someone's confronting me or I got to confront someone, it's like this barrier.
Yep.
Some people, they'll just step back and forth that barrier. They'll confront you and then go back to just being like, all right, I'm going to go back to work kind of thing, or school, whatever. But man, I've always seen it when I was younger, whatever, as this barrier that it's like, you don't cross until it's 100% go time. So anytime I'm close to the barrier, it's like you get super nervous because it's like, dang, is it go time?
Is this confrontation mean physical fighting or just in general?
Physical, in general, anything.
Like if something happened with somebody you were working with and they lost something and you had to go confront them on it, that would make you get fight or flight.
Anything, how we're just cruising, know how
fully.
And let's say me and you're cruising, I'm saying, hey, Jocko, and I'm teasing you about something, and then you like didn't like something, and then it went from like this to like, you know what I mean? Like you didn't like what I said or something. You're like, hey, I didn't like that, and it became this thing. Like,
all of a sudden
okay,
it went like that.
Yeah, for whatever reason, it's that. I can be cruising. I can be on good terms with someone. Once it goes bad, it's like, to me, I just looked at it as this huge barrier.
Mm-hmm. So I actually get something like that. And for me, what it is, same thing. But as soon as I feel it, you know what I do? I go. Like I go. If I have I just default because sometimes what bothers me, sometimes you don't always have the opportunity. Like, let's say I get an email. Yeah. Someone says, hey, I really didn't like the way this happened and blah, blah, blah. Right. It'll bother me. And especially it'll bother me if someone will say, hey, for instance, this is the kind of thing that would bother me is someone says, hey, you did this. It seemed like, you were putting me down in front of all these people. I would feel bad about it, right? And I'd be like, it would drive. And so the only way for me to get over it is I want to talk to him and say, hey, man, this is what I did. I'm going to send out an email to everyone to make sure that they know that was, it wasn't mine, say that you did a great job or whatever. Just try and make it right. But otherwise it burns me up and I have to confront it. The thing that bothers me, and I used to, I recognize this now. When I was younger, I might not recognize it. I would just sit there and I wouldn't know what to do. But now I know the solution. The solution is when something's bothering you, you go and you address the problem. Like my kids will do something and I'll be all angry about it. And I just go, oh, what I need to do is go and talk to them about it. Hey, what are you doing? Mm-hmm. Why did you do this? Here's the impact it has on the family. Here's the impact it has on your life. Here's some other opportunities that you might miss out now. Here's some things that you could do better. Here's some corrective actions we could take, whatever. The worst thing I can do is just sit there and hold it inside. Not a good thing to do.
Yeah. And I knew that fully. I mean, that it's not a good thing to do. But it was just one of those things that really induced that fight or flight, response. And the strange thing, what helped a lot, even just in regular confrontation, it's a specific type of confrontation. It's not the kind where, how you say something, then you leave, and then you think back, wait, did I insult him?
Yeah. No, that bothers me.
But that, to me, I'll call you right now and be like, hey, I said that's no problem. The kind of, it's the only kind of stuff, the only stuff that did it was stuff that to cross this line puts us on bad terms. Temporarily or permanently, it puts us on like not good terms. Anyway, it was that kind of thing. But nonetheless, you know what totally helped was Jiu Jitsu. Totally helped.
In what way?
Where I still don't want to, but if I think that the confrontation has to go down for whatever reason, it's just way easier to do.
Yeah. Just slap, bump, roll. Let's do it.
Yeah, kind of a thing, you know. But I mean, you got to do it correct. You don't be like, you don't lose your temper or go in. I'm gonna go in mad. You can address the problem, but the key isn't about like, okay, I'm good at, you know, bringing up and going through barriers in regards to confrontation. It's not that. It's that barrier no longer produces that response. Okay. So I can dance up to the barrier. If it gets crossed, it gets crossed, you know? And it's like,
You're
whatever.
Not nervous about it.
Not nervous
Which
about it.
makes you more comfortable crossing the barrier.
If need be, whatever.
Which is good. And Jiu-Jitsu helped you get there.
Yes. Ideally, I'm not going to try to cross the barrier as far as being good terms, bad terms. I'm not going to try to go to bad terms anytime, you know, or be impolite or something. I don't think it's not. But I mean, that's more depends on what kind of person you're, I think. But like I said, the key for me, or the element, the critical element there was that barrier, how I felt about being near it or crossing it or not crossing it, whatever. Didn't cure it, but it helped so much. Okay, I won't make the story long, but
that we are all hoping that you do not.
This is actually after I started Jiu-Jitsu, but just an example. So I was doing video work for this guy. I'm not gonna say who, it doesn't matter. And he had found out that I was doing other video work. I don't know. Maybe he had a sense of like owner. I don't know. He knew that, or he found out or knew that I was doing video for not a competitive thing or nothing like that, but just other video work. Kind of like, hey, wait, you're not spending all your time on my stuff, kind of thing. That's what I got the sense of, but nonetheless. And it had to do with travel, you know. So I was traveling here, and I'm like, hey, I got to go because I have to travel now to this other place. And it's kind of like, that's where I felt it. Nonetheless, so the video wasn't due till like this certain date. And then I was like, yeah, my prediction, I should have it by this date, which was way ahead of the date, by the way. And then that day I didn't have it. And I was like, oh, you know, I didn't think it was going to be a big deal because it just didn't seem like a big deal.
Your predicted date didn't get there. It wasn't the due date.
Right. Not even close.
Okay.
Yeah. And then, so I was like, oh, I don't have it. You know, I've been working on it, but you know, I don't have it. Maybe tomorrow. Like something like that. Like kind of like maybe like 1 hour I'll have it free. It wasn't an hour, but it was like, I'll have it to you soon. And he was like, I thought, given kind of our history or whatever, I thought he was gonna be like, oh, okay, well, cool. Tomorrow, we'll see it tomorrow. I'm excited to see it, kind of a thing. That's what I was expecting. But he was like, oh, okay, tomorrow. You know, I'm really disappointed that you don't have it for me right now. And I was really expecting to have that, to see something. And I'm really disappointed that you don't have anything for me right now. And I was like, boom, heart just beating. This is on the phone too, by the way. Dang. It's not like, oh, I was, you know, confronted and, you know, anything. It was just that. And bro, to the point where I didn't even know what to say.
So what did you say?
I was like, I don't even know what I said. I think it was just kind of like, I didn't say anything. And it was like.
So is that maybe one of the things that's caused you to really hold back on making a bunch of videos for Jocko Podcast? Because there's a bunch of us that want to make that phone call to you.
Well, if that
we're
were
disappointed, just so you know, we that listen to this podcast, we're disappointed.
If that were the case, wouldn't I be making videos every single day? If that were the case.
Well, I wish. Well, what can we do differently over here on our end?
Anyway, that's an example of just like how, because really, when I think about it back, like that's not a big confrontation. Probably had a lot to do with expectation. Anyway, but yeah, for some reason though, generally speaking, the jiu-jitsu helped. As long as you have genuine intentions, I think. Hey, that confrontation's gonna come.
Cool.
Next question. The serious question is about indirect approach. I have a history of starting things and then giving up on them when I get bored. I'm the same way, by the way. Or, anyway. A friend of mine is the same. I'm working on it by sticking with one thing, making a website, which will be done in 2 weeks. I call my friend once a month, and he always tells me about some new harebrained idea that he never acts on. I've tried suggesting that he pick one thing and stick with it, but he immediately shuts down. How can I take the indirect approach and get him to actually follow through on things?
Okay, so you're trying to help your friend prioritize and execute, which is really good to go. Your friend sounds like he needs to prioritize and execute and get some follow through going on with that as well. I would say this, you want to do a little indirect there? What I might do with him is get involved in a project with him. Like pick one of those, when he calls up with one of these harebrained ideas and you think it's a decent one, say, okay, cool, let's rock and roll with that. I want to get in the game. And then lay out some deadlines. Like, hey, this is what we need to get done by here. This is what we need to get done by this point. I'll do these 4 items. You do these 4 items. And that's what we'll get going. Here's the due date that we'll get them done by so we can make this launch. Boom, right? And then you deliver your end. You deliver your end. And then when he doesn't, now you can have a better discussion that's not so aggressive. You have a reason for it, you know? And then, you know, maybe even subtly tell him that hey, I'm going to go ahead and go proceed further with your idea. Like, you're not going to do it. So I'm going to do it. It just became my idea, right? And then, because you're not going to execute, because he needs to understand that idea people, that's great. I'm glad you have a lot of great ideas, but it doesn't help. It doesn't get anything done. And ideas without execution, the ideas themselves literally do not exist. Your idea is worthless. It's totally worthless if you don't execute on it. So you have to execute, and the execution of ideas into life, right? That's what it is. When you execute an idea, it's creation. It's not dreaming. It's not thinking. It's doing. You are creating something. And that's awesome. Like, just creation is an awesome thing to be a part of. And it's an awesome thing to lead and to take an idea and turn it into something that's real and create and deliver it. That's just a hugely rewarding thing in life. And he obviously probably hasn't experienced that many times. And so how can you let him know that? Let him know that, you know, ideas mean nothing without execution, and our goal is to create something. And again, I think the best way to do that is to join forces with him and drag him along so he can get that feeling of the satisfaction of how good it feels to make something happen. Now, the bad news is if he doesn't, like if he doesn't do his things, he doesn't do his part, you can coach him, you can prod him along, you can do what you can to help him. But eventually you got to go out and make things happen on your own. I mean, that's just what you got to do. And you can't, it's very hard. I'm not going to say you can't, but it's very, very difficult to help people that don't want to be helped, that don't recognize their errors, that have their egos too. Because a lot of people that are idea people, they'll literally tell you that, you know, like, well, I'm an idea guy. I'm an idea guy. That's what I do so over here. And you know, you say, okay, cool. I'm going to go over here and actually make things happen. So bye-bye. Yeah. Your ideas. So if it's someone that's arrogant like that, because that's a level of arrogance, right? Hey, look, I don't do this little labor stuff. I'm not a guy about execution. What I do is I have ideas. I have brilliance. That's what I do over here. Yeah. Those people are not going to help you. Yeah. So eventually you do what you can to help them out. You try and get him involved in some of your projects. Hopefully you can get him all the way through a project where he can see and feel the gratification of success and execution and creation. But if he never tastes that blood, he's going to be a vegetarian. That's the way it's going to go down. He's going to be a salad eater, and that's not good.
Nothing wrong with eating salads, by the way.
No, I eat salads.
I eat salad
with steak on them.
Salad. Bro, that's so true. So my brother, we know him, Jade, he does apps. Like, obviously, you know, his company, they do apps. So apps, let's say, I'm just saying in general now, apps, websites, video in my case. So these are things, there's the other industries and skills or whatever, but these are the things that attract the idea people. Hey, I got an idea for a video. I got an idea for an app. I got an idea for a website. I got an idea. So me and my brother, we attract these people, right? So it's like when you encounter that, it's kind of like me saying, I have an idea for the cure for cancer. So what it does is it goes in and it targets just the cancer cells and it leaves all the other cells alone. All of them, just leaves them alone, just kills the cancer cells. So let's say in like, I don't know, 100 years, that happens, right? And I'm like, that was my idea. Bro, no, it wasn't. It wasn't your idea. The ideas mean that, just like how you said, it gets, and to say it gets annoying, I mean, that's kind of maybe not the most accurate way. For lack of a better term, it's real interesting that it's not that clear to people, because execution is everything. The idea, I think, might have been Tim Ferriss. Someone was saying idea is worth the super small amount. I'll even go further and say it's literally worth nothing, just like you, like how you said.
I guess there's some granularity of it's what's weird? It's a dichotomy, because the idea is worthless and at the same time it's the most valuable thing, but it only gets value if it gets executed on. Otherwise it has zero value. Yeah,
and to the execution part, because here's what you get too. And I actually, in a way, was kind of one of these people where I'd be like, I have all these cool ideas. So the first thing I'm going to do when I get this idea, I'm going to go buy the domain name. Right? I'm going to, sell this, whatever. And buy the domain name, because I'm doing it. I'm executing. Boom, step one. So that's what this guy's doing right now. This guy who has these ideas and stuff. This is what he's, or some form of this.
He's a domain, habitual domain name.
He's going to buy the domain name. He might see if the trademark or the whatever is, taken, and all this stuff he'll register. And, once the work starts, he'll be like, I'm kind of bored. Right? Yeah. That was the thing, bored of that. And meanwhile, that's usually the fun part, the excitement. Ooh, I see all the potential, all this stuff. But when the reality starts hitting and, the hills get steeper and stuff like that.
The hard work.
Yeah. The actual part of any idea being materialized. Part. Yeah. When that comes to view or comes into, into play, that's when they quote unquote get bored.
Yeah.
And when you take one, maybe two steps back, it's really clear, because you consider the percentage of people just in life who are successful in their dream thing. Mm-hmm. I'm a computer programmer, and now I own a computer programming business. I don't know. That's my example. The amount of people who have that actually happening are really few. And furthermore, you ask any one of those people, it was never like I had the idea, I bought the domain name, 3 weeks later, we were moving. It's never that. It's like, oh my gosh, flop on my face, fail, years, decades a lot of the time,
It's a grind.
Yeah. And that's all that execution right there.
Executing is hard.
One time I sold contact lenses, the colored contact lenses. Mm-hmm. So it's totally illegal. I shouldn't have done it. I imported them from, I don't know. I didn't import them, but I bought them from a website.
Are we going back to the values conversation?
Kind of.
Putting people's eyesight at risk so you can make $1.
Well, they weren't prescription. They're all good. You can buy them. It was just but nonetheless, I bought them, and they'd only take 5 days to get here. So I knew how to make websites. I knew how to do all that stuff. So I just made a website, color contact lenses, and I knew about SEO and stuff like that. So I just made the website, $8 a month or something, or a year. For the domain, website was free because Jade had the platform where you could make websites. So I sold a bunch of contacts. Halloween time comes around. Perfect SEO. Color Contacts San Diego. Buy them from me. People would buy them. I'd be like, oh, you bought one? Let me buy it. Just buy it from the website. Comes in. I just send them to them. Execution.
Oh, so you're proud of this?
I'm not proud of selling contact. I'm proud of the execution part.
Good job.
And then it sort of got bored with it. So...
All right.
Next question.
Yeah, let's go to the next question. Boy.
Or this one time. Jocko, I was wondering what your opinion was on when to start a child in Jiu Jitsu. My daughter was in the game at age 7, and I'm on the mats as well. My son is 3.5 and has expressed that he's very ready to start as well. My concern is starting him too young. Him getting crushed and falling out of love with jiu-jitsu before he has a chance to fall in love with it.
This is the romance story of BJJ. Okay, so completely dependent on the maturity of the kid.
Yeah.
And how old was your daughter when she started training? 2?
2. I'll tell you about the circumstances. No, 2.
2, straight up 2.
She's less than 2.5.
She's really mature, really smart, and athletic and durable. So That's like as young as you're gonna get.
Yeah.
And what how many times a week would you go?
2.
And was there other small children in the class?
Yes.
You had some kind of you knew somebody that was also bringing their kid in or something like that. That had a good playmate in there.
Well,
you kind of need to make that happen.
It's kind of a long. I'll tell you about it for sure. Basically, it's Matt Becker and them. It's Gracie Certified Training Center up in La Jolla. It's a smaller gym, but so they have programs for younger kids or whatever, and it's essentially like you modify the young kids pro, which is like four and up. It's playing. That's what it is. But here's the thing: you learn jiu-jitsu moves
for sure.
And in there, you'll teach them that this is jiu-jitsu. They don't know that they're gonna tap.
They just think they're gonna hold the person down. They don't know that it's a mount. They're thinking they're trying to get out of the mount. But they just think they're just trying to get off the bottom. Yeah.
And they have games where you balance on stuff, and it works on their balance. You have these, the mitts that you hit. Muay Thai. They line them up and you get to, it's like, walking on the putt. So they play all these games, but it's crazy how
it's jiu-jitsu.
It's like Karate Kid, man. On Karate Kid when it's like wax on, wax off. And they get good at the wax on, wax off because it's kind of fun. Well, wax on, wax off is not fun, but the stuff you do in there is fun. And then when they're like, okay, and it's really, you got to find the right person, man, the right teacher. Because, man, he's so gentle. Kids are, because there's other younger kids and they're running around, they're not, he knows not everyone's going to be paying attention. You got to, and so they got to know how to deal with kids. But yeah, man, she took it and it was good. Yeah.
And there's some kids that are 11 and 12 years old that aren't ready for jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
They're just not there yet. And I would also say less is more for a young kid. You don't want to just 100%. Burn them out. Don't smoke them on that every day. Make them look forward. Pull them off the mat. They want to stay a little bit longer. Hey, we got to go. Yeah. I mean, let them have some fun. But I burned my kids out.
Yeah.
And I backed off in time for my son because he was younger. And I didn't, because my daughters, I was like, compete. Train, compete. Oh, I'm going to put you in the heavier weight class, the older kids bracket. I mean, I just did it wrong, right? Just did it wrong. And I didn't back off in time. And so now they train, not as much as they should, right? My son trains all the time. But I did a bad job of making jiu-jitsu fun. Right. Because that's what, that's why I like the fact that this question, he's saying, am I starting him too young or he's going to get crushed? Hey, no gym that you take your 3.5-year-old child to should be allowing him to get crushed.
Yeah.
That shouldn't be happening. So if you have a good gym where you got the right instructor, that then go and let them have fun and make sure it just stays fun. And if they don't love it, you can't make them love it. It's not going to happen. Now, this is a good story. One of my son's friends, who I always want everyone to train jiu-jitsu, obviously. But this guy's a friend of mine, known for a long time, and has a son that's my son's age, and so they kind of grown up together. And, my son's always training jiu-jitsu, and I would say, hey, when they were 6 years old, hey, have your son come in and try it. Came in and tried it one day, hated it. Year later now, a year, I don't know, something like that, 13 months, 18 months or something. Comes in a year later, tries it again. He's like now 7 years old, hates it, just doesn't like it, can't stand it. Then comes in at, 9 years old, comes in, loves it. He trains every day now. He trains all the time. And now he's my, and I'll tell you what, this is what's cool, is that it's not like he's a million years. It's not. So my son trained 3 years more, or maybe even 4 years more than this other kid. My son is that kid caught up, right? I mean, my son's still a little bit better, but they're in the same game, right? Right. It's not like that my son has this massive lead. No, the kid loves it, and you can learn and get better, at any age. But my point in saying that is forcing him to be in it for those 3 years would not have helped. He would have quit jiu-jitsu completely. Yep. But just having and showing it to him and saying, hey, this is what you do. And, he didn't like getting choked, right? That's, and Maybe that's me. It's my buddy's son. So, hey, let's get after it a little bit. And we weren't letting him get choked, but he just didn't like the claustrophobia of it, right?
Yeah.
And there is claustrophobia. You're going to feel that even in a gentle situation with a 6-year-old. If you're getting held down, you don't like it.
Yeah.
He didn't like it.
Yeah.
Now he's holding people down himself. So you basically what I'm saying is forcing a kid to do something for 2 years. You think you're getting this value, 2 years worth of value. You're not getting 2 years worth of value. You're actually going the other direction. So you might as well just let them try it occasionally. And I say that sometimes kids will, at my gym, hey, my son just doesn't want to do it right now. And I go, no problem. Hey, you know what? They say, I just want to make him come. I go, don't make him come. Yeah. I go, don't make him come. Let him come when he wants to. You're gonna stop your membership. That's cool. If he wants to come in on Saturdays, bring him in. He wants to come in once a month. To just keep him familiar, do that. Yeah. Just do that. You don't grind their brains out when they're whatever, little kids.
Even big kids, I think. You know how you say like jiu-jitsu should be fun. So you ever watch Bronx Tale? You ever watch that? Okay, so there's a part on that where these biker guys, they're in the bar. Causing trouble. Now you
just can't get out.
Exactly right. Yeah. So that's what it is. And this is what this guy got to be careful. Okay, so for those who've never seen Bronx Tale, these biker guys are in the bar and they're like causing trouble and all this stuff. And then the people there, hey, you guys, please leave.
Mobsters say, hey, guys,
please leave.
You need to get out of here.
Yeah.
They're like, hey, we'll do whatever we want. And he's like, no,
they're like, hey, okay, we'll leave. Let me get one beer. And the guy's like, all right, one more beer. They grab the beer and they shake the beer all over all this stuff. So anyway, they lock the doors. They say, hey, we asked you to leave. Now you can't leave, right? Bad situation for the biker guys. So this is what, in my opinion, this guy has to avoid. Like if his son, 3.5, is like, dang, I'm showing interest. I want to get on the mats. I want to jump in here. I see what's going on. It looks like fun. I'm going to jump in. Don't be like, hey, you want to get in, now you can't leave. Don't do that kind of stuff.
Don't do that. Leave the door open.
Right there. Yes, exactly. So as you know, Press is 3.5 now, where she went to Matt Becker's for a while and learned it, and it was cool. And now I just bring her with me just once a week when I go on Fridays or whatever. I'd bring her with me. I don't tell her jump in the class and just come. Be familiar with the mats. You see Dad rolling. You see Jocko rolling. You see Andy. And she has fun. Everyone talks. She's pretty outgoing. Yeah. She has fun. Now she just likes them. The mats is fun. Yeah. Everyone talks to her. She hangs with
she coaches you.
Crystal's son is there. Yeah, she cheers for me. Yeah. But Crystal's son is there.
Aren't I her favorite jiu-jitsu guy though?
No, I think it was Andy. Yeah, sorry, Bo. So she likes it. She's familiar. I'm not going to say, hey, we're here, so we got to get our reps today. No, it's not that. When she wants to come like mount, and she'll be like, hey, let me show this guy. There's I forget his name, but it's like, hey, let me show him mount. And there's this whole series that she learned from like fighting the arms and keeping the balance, all this stuff. And she likes to do it, So now she always wants to go.
There you go.
And at home or whatever, when my mom comes and visits, she's like, hey, let me show grandma mount, and she wants to do it,
Beautiful.
And so that'll keep her in the game. And when she starts getting a lot more ability, age like 3.5 now, so like let's say 4, 5, 6, 7, she's gonna start to realize, oh shoot, I can do this stuff now, because all these little things that I learned just by playing around, really. And that's kind of what you want with that. But if they look at it, this thing that my dad forced me to do, and it's so hard and claustrophobic, and guys sweating on me, and I'm losing the whole time because I just started, and I'm rolling with Thor the whole time, and he's killing me or whatever. And that's my experience. My whole regard for the jiu-jitsu is going to be like, this isn't fun.
There's also a little bit of rebellion in most children. In like one of my daughters, she doesn't want to train jiu-jitsu, but she wrestles in high school. So that's awesome.
I think that's an example.
But she almost does that just to be, no, I wrestle. Little does she know, she got flanked. She got flanked.
So,
right on.
But yeah, man, I think so. I mean, back to the question, I think that they're given a certain type of teacher, which, I mean, the demands on a teacher for a young even
Kids'
3
class is
years.
hard,
Yeah, it's so hard. So you got to, it's rare to find a teacher, especially if you have a teacher who doesn't like do that. You know, if it's like, okay, I'm going to make an exception for this. Because I've seen guys, they're comfortable, they're friends of the gym kind of thing. And they're like, yeah, my kid's 2, but hey, we all like each other, right? Hey, jump in the kid's class. He's 2. He's running around. He's interrupting the class. Like, yeah, it's not good. If the kid's not ready and the teacher, that's not a compatible situation.
We straight up, if the kid's not ready, we'll say, hey, your kid's not ready.
Yeah.
You can't be in here.
Yeah.
Come back in 6 months. You want to bring him in to watch on Saturdays? Cool. Get him familiar with that.
That's what you do. You bring him in to watch. It's the time we're going. You know, hopefully he's not disruptive. Hopefully.
Well, they can't be disruptive or they can't stay.
Right.
Hey, you can't do that.
Yeah.
Go.
Yeah. Well, yeah. So in that case, you know, it's not going to work. But yeah, that's it. Just like how you said, just open the door. Mm-hmm. I'm cruising in here. Mm-hmm. Look and see the door's open. I'm cruising here. I'm doing fun stuff. Come on in. I'm not going to close the door. I'm not going to go Bronx tail on you. You know, that's how you do it. My opinion.
Check. All right. Well, we got time for one more.
One more, yeah. Okay. Jocko. Jocko. I have mostly lived a life dominated by doubt and fear. What are your thoughts on how I can step into bravery?
You know, I actually took this question from Twitter and I answered the question in one word. You've lived a life dominated by doubt and fear. How do you step into bravery? Step. That's how you step into bravery. Step. Take the step. Step aggressively towards your fear. And that step towards your fear is the step into bravery. Because we're scared of what we don't know. And there is only one way to learn and to know, and that is to confront that fear. You have to step, you have to go. And this simple action, this simple attitude, it answers so many questions. So many questions. How do you get to the gym every day? You step. You go. How do you change your diet? You step. You go. How do you overcome fear of failure or fear of success or fear of fear itself? You step. And how do you face the fear of the unknown? You step. Don't wait anymore. Don't think anymore. Don't plan anymore. Don't contemplate anymore. Don't make any more excuses or justifications. Don't rationalize anything else. No, no, and no. Instead, be aggressive. Take action now. And what is the first action that you need to take? What's the first step you need to take? The first step you need to take is just that. Step. And I think that's all I've got for tonight. So, speaking of stepping, Echo Charles. If somebody wanted to step up and support this podcast, what would be a good step in making that happen?
Okay. Before I go into that, good day today. Warrior Bars came in. I mentioned I tried the jalapeno one anyway. Came in today. Outstanding. I've been, you know this. I've been kind of off. Had the stomach flu. Mm-hmm. 2 MRIs on my knee to see what up. 2 knees. You know, so I kind of been out of the game 2 weeks. Mm-hmm. Out of the game. Today was my first day back in the game. First day back in the game, did a Metcon, lifted some weights. Didn't do the Jiu Jitsu yet, but yeah, fully functional, all good. Life has meaning again. Then the Warrior bars come in.
Good day for Echo Charles.
Great day. Warrior bars, Onnit Warrior bars. And we talked about this before. So, all right, back to the supporting the podcast thing. I know you're like, what does that have to do with supporting the podcast? So, Onnit Warrior bars. Onnit is supplements. I remember back in the day, when I not first, but maybe a few years into lifting, you know how people, they'll just get supplements.
Yeah.
Right.
Joe Weider Super Weight Gain 2000.
Exactly. Weight Gain 2000, you know, all the betagen, phosphagen, creatine, you know, even though apparently creatine is a good thing. Anyway, for real, I found that like supplements, no factor. Doesn't even make a difference. Like when I was on supplements, like weight gainer, I didn't gain a bunch of weight, no more than I would without the supplements. Anyway, so the point there is supplements are whack, in my opinion. And what I found out that you focus on the wrong thing on as far as supplementation goes, it's going to be whack. So on onnit.com
/Jocko.
/Jocko. That's for the 10% off, but I'm going to get to that. Don't worry, this has to do with supporting the podcast. So on it, they have the correct supplements, and not only the correct supplements, the good quality, because supplements don't have to be anything. They don't have to be. You can have chalk pills and be like, hey, increase your mood. I don't know, whatever. Increase your weight gain, whatever. But these are like legit, one of the few. Anyway, and okay, so if you want to supplement something, don't get like weight gainers, you know? If you want to gain weight, you can do that in the correct way without supplements. This is what you supplement. What, you know, as you wear and tear your joints don't get much blood flow like compared to muscles. So they tend to get more wear and tear with less, like as far as speedy recovery goes. Your muscles recover quicker than your joints. That's what I'm saying. You supplement something. Supplement that. That needs supplementation if you're getting after it. Krill oil.
That was a big lead in.
Bro, look, I could say take krill oil. It'll help your joints. Be like, okay, you know, because every commercial or every whatever, they'll be like, hey, take this, it'll help this. You need like some context and like the information that kind of backs it up. You know, got to be real. And this is real. Nonetheless, krill oil is one of the supplements that I recommend for your joints. I told the story about how when I'd get out of bed and I'd be like all jacked up because my daughter would jump on my back right out of bed. You're like, but you got to warm up for that kind of stuff typically, but not anymore because I've been on the krill oil. Strong bone, by the way, for your joints as well. It's not strong bone.
No,
strong bone. Yeah.
I don't know the reason for that.
It's just dope like that. But if you're looking for it, no G, that's strong. That's for joints and stuff. What else do you take? Oh, Alpha Brain, of course. So the point behind all this. Shroom Tech. Here's what Shroom Tech does.
I think everybody knows what it does.
Here's the thing. I don't think so. I'd be like, hey, it makes you get after it for longer,
but
whatever.
If people listen to the podcast, every time we say what Shroom Tech does.
I'm going to clarify.
Okay. You know what? Go for it.
You know what?
I'm going to sit back.
Okay.
Clarify.
I'm going to clarify it to you. And
do
just agree or disagree if this is correct. Okay, so I don't even have to use scientific terms. I'm just put it into perspective. So if I'm gonna,
let's not.
No.
I don't want you to use. You haven't had enough alpha brain to use scientific terms right now. So just use whatever terms.
Okay, I'm gonna do a Metcon.
Then use them quickly.
I'm gonna do a Metcon. I'm gonna do like 10 rounds of jiu-jitsu, 5 rounds of jiu-jitsu, whatever. If I'm not on Shroom Tech Sport, by the way, there's Shroom Tech Immune as well, but Shroom Tech Sport. So it helps you like utilize oxygen. So what that means is when you hit the, you know, when you're like in a car where it goes to when you're redlining, that needle's hitting the red, bro, you can't pull ahead when you're in the red. You can't pull ahead when you're in the red. Know that. So if you're not on the Shroom Tech and you hit the red, and don't be halfway through your workout when the needle is hitting the red, you're redlining already. You can't go past. You can't push through. What the Shroom Tech does, if you have that in you, that needle won't go towards the red. It'll go up there. It'll go the green, maybe even in the yellow, and it'll hang in the yellow, and you'll be pushing hard halfway, 3/4, last, minute, 2 minutes of the round, you won't even be by the red. You'll still be in the yellow. That's what the Shroom Tech does. Agree?
Agree.
Boom. There you go. So take the Shroom Tech. Shroom Tech Sport, by the way. Okay, so now the /Jocko, what that signifies is you get 10% off.
Good deal.
I would say retail price is for suckers. I would say that, but it's not true. You pay retail if you want.
Or save 10%.
Just go to onnit.com and just get it. Don't get the 10% off. Pay 100%. It's up to you. Nonetheless, you got the Shroom Tech. You got the Warrior Bars. It's like this dope thing as well. Look into that. Krill oil for your joints. You get all that stuff. In my opinion, it helps. That's why. It's not like the Beta Gin Power Gain 5000 where it doesn't help. This is the for real kind that helps.
Understood, man.
There you go.
We're good with you, dude.
I'm telling everyone.
Believe you.
No, I'm telling everybody else. You're over here like, I already know this. I know you already know this, but you got to put it into perspective sometimes.
You just certainly did.
Onnit.com/Jocko. There's other things on there, and you can just kind of know, like when you when you get there.
You're going crazy for Onnit right now.
No, here's the thing.
I like Onnit.
I'm going crazy.
You like it a lot more apparently tonight.
Yeah, because I do feel like if I would have known this, like what I'm saying now.
Oh.
Like before, because I'm slowly getting new stuff. Of course, I got the Warrior Bar and I took Shroom Tech before. I know that. But I'm like looking, they got a new recovery, pre-workout and recovery drink. It's all in one. And I'm like, bro, if I would have known all this, I would have gotten and been in the game with this stuff a long time ago.
So you're providing a public service.
I'm taking a stand right now. I'm letting it be known.
All right. We're good.
Anyway.
I'm just going to sit over here.
I'll tell you another one that I got off the record. Well, I guess it's on the record, but it's it's not peanut butter. You know how they have almond butter?
Yeah.
But it's like a almond cashew. It's like a mixed nut butter. Mm-hmm. It's pretty dope.
From Onnit?
Onnit,
I might have to try that.
Yeah, nonetheless. One of the major keys is that it's like legit quality. Get 10% off if you go to onnit.com/Jocko or just go to onnit.com and get 0% off, whatever you like. Anyway, another way to support is the Amazon click-through. That's like what it is if you don't know. You go to our websites, jockopodcast.com. Over on the side to the right, you'll see just a basic Amazon banner. You click through there before you do shopping, your Christmas shopping, or your everyday shopping. And that kind of supports the podcast. It makes Amazon gives us like a little kickback. That's a good way to support. I made the comparison to a little piece of sodium. It's seems like this teeny tiny thing because just clicking through Amazon and shopping, that's the teeny tiny 3-second effort. But it does a big deal, as far as supporting. So
it means we don't have to run advertisements on the podcast.
Yeah.
Which I don't believe
probably going to do it, not going to do it. Aside from Onnit, but technically that's marketing.
That's
But I was taking Onnit before this. Yeah. I'm telling you. Anyway.
But you know what? Hold on a second while we go to a commercial break.
Yeah.
No, don't want to do that.
Yeah. This isn't even a commercial break. This is this is the deal. We're doing it all together.
If I remember to do this, I'm gonna do like fake commercials during the next podcast, or like in a podcast in the future. I'm gonna do fake commercials and make everyone just suffer through fake commercials just to see how much it's horrible, and then say, if you never want to hear that again, click through Amazon.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a good way though. Speaking of fake commercials, so I did these 2 fake commercials, made them videos.
I've seen them.
Bardis beer. And then there's Bardis Prime, which is like a 40 ounce. It's a lot of racial stereotypes in that one, but nonetheless. Back to the Amazon click-through thing. That's a good way to support. So be the sodium, if you understand. And of course, subscribe to the podcast on iTunes. That's a big deal. And leave a review, man, if you're in the mood. Do you read the reviews, Jocko?
I do read the reviews. And what I noticed, I was looking at some other reviews today because I read our reviews today to see if there's any good input. There was good stuff. Mm-hmm. I looked at what this kind of got me motivated to see is that The people that write our reviews, they're getting in the game. They're writing full paragraphs with detailed likes and pros and cons and all that. You go to some other people's that have feedback on theirs, and it's just 2 words. Good podcast. Or I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. 5 stars.
Yeah.
That's I love it. 5 stars is a lot different than someone saying, what I really like about the Jocko podcast is that they go into detail on these leadership elements that have helped me in the following ways. And they go through the whole thing.
Yeah.
That's really good support, the podcast.
I'll tell you this about that. Because really, when you think about it, if you're just like...
And some of them are funny, by the way.
Yeah.
And the ones for Jocko Tea that are on Amazon, I'm going to have to figure out a way to publish those or do something with them because some of them are awesome. Eric's was insane, but there's been a few of them.
Yeah, those are good.
I retweeted a bunch of them.
Yeah.
So everybody, it's a little hard to retweet them. So I have to figure out a way to retweet them better, like capture screenshot or something. But they're so good. They're so funny.
Some of them are pretty wordsmith-esque.
Oh, some of them are long. Some of them, it takes me, 6 minutes to read it. And I want to actually highlight stuff and take notes.
Add them to the deal. But that's a good one there. Well, when you think about it, even if someone's in the mood to write a review and they're just like, heck yeah, great podcast, 5 stars, I say do that.
That's true too. It doesn't have to be long.
But what that is, when people are like, this is what I like about it, whatever, that's just all that is the result of someone being in the mood to write a review and genuinely writing it. Freaking awesome.
Beyond writing it, I'd say that qualifies as getting after it.
After it. Yeah. So you know how you say unmitigated discipline in all things, or is it getting after it in all things?
Daily. You're missing the word daily.
Daily. Yeah. So, yeah. Anyway. Yeah. Just
unmitigated daily discipline in all things.
Yep. And getting after it in all things as well. I know that's new, but still we're going with it. So yeah, man, write a review. Subscribe to YouTube. We're doing some more videos on top of the podcast videos.
Excerpts.
Some excerpts.
Tell Echo on Twitter what excerpts you want so he doesn't have to figure out what you want. Just tell him what you want. Give him the podcast and the time hack. He'll pull it out. He'll put it on there.
Yeah, I will. Yeah, that's I think the challenge, I think, is going back and finding them.
Yes.
But you know what? That's not a challenge. That's not a challenge.
Well, it is a little bit because something might not have struck you the way it struck someone else.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
And so if it's striking one person out there, it's probably striking at least 4 or 5 more people that want to hear that excerpt. Yeah. So let's give it to them. Yeah. So tell Echo, podcast number, timestamp. That would be easy for you, right?
Yes.
Because we don't want to stress you out.
No, don't stress the delicate.
We know that you're sensitive to that. We don't want to be disappointed in you.
Except if you're Brady, Lisa, Debbie, Andy, anyone that we talk, don't be like, hey, I like this timestamp because like we said your name on the podcast, make an excerpt. Don't say that. So those people kind of can't do that.
Why not?
All right. Well, I guess we're
they should be. They're listening.
Yeah.
They probably have good input.
Andy's one's going to be like a 20-second song. Hey, that part where you mentioned
good.
This.
20 seconds is fine. That's what you need to understand, Echo. People want to watch stuff that's 20 seconds long. They don't want to watch 29 minutes. That's why it's called an excerpt.
Jocko, we got a store.
We do have a store.
It's called Jocko Store. Well, yeah, I know. We already knew this. But no real new developments there, really. But if you didn't know, that is a good way to support, and you get some stuff in return. So boom, buy a shirt if you're down, if you like them. There's one with Jocko's face on it. It says good.
Backwards.
So if you look in the mirror, it's for you. That message is for you. Layers. Anyway, look at, there's rash guards there. Rash guards are good for, the Jiu Jitsu. For any physical activity where you need range of motion, rash guards is good. They look good too, according to people. Here's a tip for the rash guards. And I think for the shirts as well. If you're one of those in-betweeners, like that means you're like, hey, I wear a large, but if it fits slim, I need an extra large. Like that kind of people. It fits like this much slimmer. Know that. So if you're an in-betweener, everything. Rash guard and the shirts.
Go big.
Go to the bigger size if you're an in-betweener.
Got it.
Yeah, for sure. That's just a tip.
Good advice.
And that's good news for you, though.
You know what? Out of the past 39 minutes you've been talking about this way to support the podcast, that was the most important thing that you've said. That was the valuable piece of information.
Arguably. Yeah, maybe.
Just saying over here.
I respect your opinion on the matter. There's some women's stuff too. Don't neglect the ladies. This is, in my opinion, something that I overlooked. If you want to support the podcast, you know how it's like, oh, my girl's birthday's coming up. In this case, Christmas coming up. I only bought my wife one thing, and it wasn't that good because I don't have that creative thing. If you're thinking that, get them a Discipline Equals Freedom women's t-shirt, V-neck, pink or black or OD green, whatever the color you like. But there is pink if you want pink. Get them one of that.
Against my...
That'll have a two-pronged effect. Boom, you get a solid shirt that you didn't, get at the swap meet. They're quality stuff. They're good shirts. We made it a point to get the good ones. You got a good quality shirt, and she became instantly in the game. Two-pronged effect. So get that for your wife if you want. That's a suggestion. And three-pronged effect. Support the podcast. Boom, there it is. Some hoodies in there as well for the cold weather. And some patches. The official 2x3 tan FD flat dark earth color official. Wear with your uniform. Boom. Available now, as they say. Anyway, jockostore.com.
Also, we got Jocko White Tea. Now, Jocko White Tea is in apparently extremely high demand. Why? Because it tastes awesome, and it also makes you feel good, and it's got antioxidants, which makes you healthier.
Yes.
And I'm not going to use any scientific terms. I'm just going to tell you.
Straight up. Yeah.
So it's been in high demand. We have logistical issues, right? Straight up. So it's showing up at Amazon. It's going through their system. Just keep checking. And we've got. I told everyone that we would never run out of white tea again. This was a mistake.
Yeah, promptly.
I did not understand the logistic challenges that we would be facing. Now, I have not even doubled down, not even tripled down. I have quadrupled down to make the future bright. We will get to a point in the future where we will literally never run out of Jocko White Tea. But for now, keep checking back on Amazon. Sign up for the little notification thing, because when they clear it through their little system, it shows up, and everyone that has the notification is buying it immediately. So it's running out. The other day, it was up for 18 minutes or something. It was gone.
Wait, what notification? The Amazon.
On Amazon.
Yeah, okay.
You can sign up for notify me when this is back in stock.
Gotcha. Yeah.
So when that happens, boom, you can order it immediately. The mugs that say "Get After It" on them, and that have a little approved symbol with someone's head that looks a lot like me on it. You can get those on Amazon as well. And they're big. They're bigger than normal, because bigger, that way you can fit more white tea in it and be more better. And you can get those. Those are also same thing on Amazon. Again, I apologize, but the way the system works, they're coming in, they show up, and then they take a certain amount of them and put them into the system. Right. But then they don't realize yet at Amazon they're not in the game yet, to be quite honest with you. They're not in the game. They don't understand what's happening. We're trying to explain it to them that people want mugs. When they want mugs, they also want tea to put into the mugs. We're getting there. Same thing. Logistically, we'll get to a point where we will not run out of mugs. Now, I don't know. The mugs will keep making forever. I don't know, because once everyone has one, then they'll say, okay, I got mine, so then we'll stop making them. But you can get them on Amazon. You can get the tea on Amazon. You can get the Reload, which is 100 bags. You can get the 10, which is quality container that you can then reload with the Reload. So do that. That's on Amazon.com. Also, Extreme Ownership Muster #2 in where? New York City. It's going to be May 4th and May 5th. www.extremeownership.com. Go get registered. Do it fast. The price does go up the closer we get to the date. So A, I don't want you to pay more. B, it's going to sell out. So the faster you do it, the better chance you have of going and of paying a lower price. When we get there, if you're thinking that I'm not going to sit there and talk to you, and I'm not going to sign your book, and Leif's not going to sit there and talk to you, and Leif's not going to sign your book. You're wrong. We're going to sit there. We're going to sign your book. We're going to talk to you. We're going to address your problems. We're going to hang out. We didn't go behind the curtain at all. 0 times. Actually, we did one. When the thing was over, we walked back off the stage and behind the curtain for about 3 minutes because we were a little bit fired up at that point. We just walked back there and decompressed, then came out and started signing books. So that was one time. But the rest of the time, we'd say, okay, everyone take a 10-minute break. We'd go to the front and sign books, right? Boom, or talk to people or address something or whatever. So this isn't a thing where you go and we're going to be, behind the curtain and come out like I'm a rock star, and I'm not a rock star. I'm not nothing. And my purpose of being here is to hang out. So that's why we're going to the muster. That's why we're having the muster. So come to the muster, New York City. Come and hang out. You're going to learn something. I'm going to learn something.
Oh, yeah.
We're all going to learn something. And you're going to meet a bunch of people that are, I hate using this term, a bunch of people that are like-minded, right? Because really, can 2 minds be alike? No, they can't be. But can 2 people, 3 people, 300, 450 people that are going to be in New York City that all want to get after it, can they be there? Yes, they can. And they will. In force. Until we get to the muster. In the meantime, if you want to talk to us, it just so happens that we're all up in the interwebs. On Twitter, on Instagram, and as you might have sensed, we also on that Facebooky boha. Echo. Echo is at Echo Charles, and I am at Jocko Willink. And to wrap this up, thank you for listening. Thank you for listening for the past year. 52 straight weeks, no breaks. But I want to say this. I want to tell you something else. And I want to make this clear. Don't just listen. Don't just listen. Do. I'm not just talking. So you know, I'm not just talking. I'm doing. And I don't want you to just listen. Put this information to work. Make today count. Every day. Go forward. Get aggressive and attack, whether it's on the battlefield or on the beat or in the factory or on the farm or on the construction site or on the website, in the garage or in the firehouse. Don't hesitate. Step forward and get after it. So until next time, this is Echo and Jocko. Out.